Another late blog post. Things have been really crazy still. Was in LA and then I'm in Warsaw, Poland again, and then I'm going back to Kiev tomorrow. Yesterday was my birthday, and it's a 30th birthday, so that's a time that a lot of people reflect. And my favorite posts to read on Facebook are people's like wisdom compiled posts. You get to learn about people, and also that sunscreen song says that wisdom is a form of nostalgia that is basically like time efficient and useful. So I used it as a time to reflect and share things. And through this process, something I noticed has really come out that I wanted to share, and that's that basically about like confidence. About 3 or 4 people in the last week from totally different spheres remarked on that about me, and it's not something that I ever took that seriously or something I kind of just knew and would brush off. And that's something we do a lot with our greatest strengths, is that they're largely subconscious and we tend not to really value them because they're easy for us. But for example, my mentor when I was an executive tech recruiter always said that I'm the number one person he'd want to go to networking events with because I'm fearless and I can just go up and talk to anybody. And like I kind of just brushed that off, but that's like a pretty big thing for him, or just in general, that like happening over and over again. So I finally went back and I was analyzing a lot more deeper and articulating, wanting to share and make this useful for you. And I think what this is from is a combination of parenting, from parents saying follow your dreams, do what makes you happy, stuff like that. Maybe some genetics, but the biggest, most important one is that I just have a really clear sense of life purpose, and it's something bigger than myself. Dan Harmon says that when you live for something bigger than yourself, that's the only way to truly be free or to like unlock your destiny. And for me, building kind of a utopia on Earth is my total life purpose. And the aspect of that I'm working on now is helping create digital versions of people so that we can create smarter search engines to help us know ourselves better, develop, get options from the world, meet people, just like so much stuff. And so this is almost like a divine purpose for me, where I feel like I'm morally okay with anything that I'm doing. Not like I can be immoral, but like I feel like I usually have a moral high ground or imperative to be able to like operate or do things because I'm on this like almost thing that seems almost like it's some sort of holy quest. And so I think just having this sort of like intensity of life, of having this driving purpose and passion, just allows me to, yeah, just be confident about stuff, because I think that I'm just a vessel for this bigger vision and that my life doesn't matter that much, comfort doesn't matter that much. It's sort of about getting this stuff done, and then maybe also almost dying a lot of times. Having big diverse life experiences might also help, just be able to take things more easily, or not, or to get over some fears when some of the worst things that could happen do happen. But overall, the part that I think is the most doable is finding a life purpose or path, having a lot of diverse life experiences, not that is, not just going for it. So I guess updates, confirm the psychological study that I've been putting together with Dario and Dave. So that's like 100% going down now, and they're in communication. So essentially figuring out different regions of the brain that activate from electricity and mapping that out with the 512 personality system. And recently decided to put in maybe some astrology testing, just to see if there's any correlations between any of the stuff. Maybe I'm suspecting there might be slight sun or moon correlations based on like the time of day or the year that form people's first impressions of the world, but it's not necessarily certain that that'll matter. But it's interesting to check considering how popular astrology is as a framework. But more likely, I'm expecting possible connections between our brains and this framework, which kind of blends the social sciences type of science with hard sciences. Then there's also this cooperative in Hollywood that I learned about from that brunch from last video that I mentioned. And it's called Treehouse, and it looks really cool. It seems like a bunch of people in like 20s to 40s who are co-living, very active movers and shakers, shared community values. I think this will be a really fun way to just get to know people in LA faster when I move there. And I got a tour of the site, and it was all under construction. I was looking at the rooms I'd want. It's kind of expensive. It's about average for Hollywood, but it's made easier because of a lot of utilities that they take care of and cleaning and stuff. But what I'm going to propose is actually being like a house psychologist and giving people information about their housemates and what they're like and how to get along with them. And also maybe being like a slight therapist for interdisciplinary problems or for people that might need help. They could sell that as a value add, and maybe I can get like a room at a slightly steeply, not slightly, like a discounted rate, where I could actually live in maybe a better room that I'd otherwise maybe be biased to want to take one of the worst ones. And I guess a lesson from that is just creative thinking. That wasn't something that I think most people would consider, is asking if they can have a role. And Betty, who was touring me, said, "Oh, that sounds really cool. I wonder if we could work on that," especially when it's early and all the rules aren't in place, especially in a community like this. Things are possible, so just being able to recognize that and be opportunistic is often worth it. Being very, very clear about what you want. I guess this goes back to the confidence thing, and this is actually the root of it, is by having not just a life purpose, but knowing what you want really badly in any given situation, and pursuing this gives a lot of the confidence, gives confident actions that seems like confidence at least. Another thing to share is I've been reading a book called The Organized Mind. That's just too good to not share with you. It talks about, the beginning is a little dry with some like the hard chemistry of how consciousness and our brains work, but it starts getting into like tons of really good tactics and strategies. And a couple that I'm definitely already picking up is starting to keep better track of my relationships, of information about people that I meet, having recurring events every few months to check in with friends if I haven't like talked to them since then or for a while, and also offloading information into folders, because our brains are programmed to keep rethinking of information so we don't forget it, and that just wastes a bunch of thought and energy, think time you could be doing other stuff, keeps you out of the moment. So if you digitize your mind's thoughts with to-do lists or records or notes online and organize those really well, then it makes your brain healthier and more fluid. A lot of super rich people will have secretaries where they just kind of give notes to and they update the contact book, so they just do all this stuff for them, and that's part of what makes them able to operate super highly functionally. Another update is updated the GameTree investor deck. In California, people are a lot more interested in the bigger vision of GameTree, of basically that digitization of people for the sake of search and discovery and personalization. Whereas in Europe, they're kind of more small-minded, focused on like what's the progress you have right now, or what's like the immediate monetization. But in California, people have been a lot more receptive to that, and investors have suggested updating it, so I went ahead and did that. And I'm really happy because that's kind of how I see it, but still having this big struggle of the initial starting point. Should we be focusing on just finding gamer friends? Because compared to all the competition, like nobody else is doing anywhere near as good of a job with that as us. Or should we be focusing more on personalized discovery within gaming? And the investors keep repeating that they want finding gamer friends, but that's a smaller niche. It doesn't apply to as many people. It's not something people are used to paying for, but it is somewhere we're actually getting a lot of traction and have most of the top Google keywords. So that's kind of a sign that the market wants what it wants, and more I'm leaning towards doing that. Along that note, the brand considerations I talked about last 2 weeks ago, engaging the Australian firm, they came back with the idea of a brand that's sort of like heroes, like classical heroes. But I came back to them that the brand was supposed to be more like everyman, about being like a person next door, community feeling, belonging, with heroes as like a subtype to give people tools to be the heroes in their lives. It's kind of cool because heroes can work in like the fantasy world or the sci-fi world because they're very flexible, but they're also popular right now and more easily identifiable than maybe some people who might not be into fantasy or sci-fi. But at the same time, now we're thinking that maybe we need to be like a rebel creator brand, sort of like early day Jobs in Apple, because essentially it's looking more and more like we're kind of becoming a Facebook Google, and a rebel is about taking down things that aren't working, and a creator is about replacing them with something better, and that's essentially part of what we're doing here. And it's also a little bit more cool, a rebel brand, so that's something we're considering now as well. And the friend Shadi is going to meet with us tomorrow. He's really good with this stuff and hopefully help us figure it out. Project management has been an issue. I have a monkey mind. I think a lot of young people, especially with all this information technology, have it. So looking into using a project management software like Asana or Trello, I've been noticing too much that people I'm delegating stuff to are just not following up, or running into walls and not going through them, or not reporting to me that they're having problems, and it's just causing a lot of craziness. Within our development team, we definitely have project management, but I'm thinking now to either have a separate board for like marketing, but it's tricky because then we might need a bunch of boards for different sub stuff, or try to like bring everything into Asana, but that requires a new system, higher payments, and also separate development being on Trello and Asana being somewhere else that might not interact as well. So I'll report thoughts on that. But in general, my understanding is that a project management system would be really helpful. It's in my general nature to want to resist that sort of infrastructure because it creates extra work, extra things we have to learn. But it seems like from repeated attempts to not use it, that it seems like it's something that we just need at this point. And lastly is that something I wish I'd been doing more was connecting with other founders who are farther along than me, because it's a lot of trouble getting to investors through cold emails. It almost doesn't work at all. And investors, in a way, like if you need them, they kind of aren't interested in you. It's like a human nature kind of thing, is people want what they can't have. But when you get warm references from people, which I have been getting, but not as much from founders, that's something that's like a lot more powerful. So I met with the founder of Amplitude. It's kind of an upcoming unicorn right now in data analytics, and he was super helpful with some introductions, and then going through some friends of friends as well to meet the Tinder CEO soon, hopefully. But that's something I wish I'd been trying sooner, and looking for similar companies even, and knowing who invested in them, and they could also invest in me. Not just going straight to the investors, but maybe going through the founders to get those intros. And also wishing I'd reached out to investors a lot earlier about being possible advisors, so that they could open up their networks or even themselves at this stage. But that's something that, looking back, I wish I'd done a lot better. So that's it for now. Catch you next time.